Hello everyone, I'm Rain, and welcome back to another Hytale news video. We've got an exciting video today, all about the newest blog post. But before we hop into the news, we want to give a quick notice to everyone who is in our Discord. There had been an error and you were most likely kicked. It's the #1 place to interact with the community for all things Hytale. As always, link is in the description, and without further ado, let's get into the news. This blog post has news that will excite players and modders alike, as we're taking a look at NPC behaviors. There is so much packed into this blog post. As a quick summary, we know a lot more about Trorks, a little bit on goblins and Quebecs, and we see our first ever look at a dropped item. So without further ado, let's get into the complex behaviors we're going to see Trorks exhibit in Hytale. After a creature has been designed in the Hytale model maker, it then gets scripted using JSON, which uses modules to trigger behaviors. The scripts can be as simple as a creature determining whether he fights or flees in a confrontation. More complex scripts allow NPCs to chase players and seek out objectives they desire, like campfires and food. We suspect that all of these have been implemented into Hytale based on the snippets they show us, and it will be interesting to see if NPCs can change behaviors based on their health level. As we mentioned in another video, for example, if a Trork sentry drops below half health during a fight, it might decide to flee. We also know that NPCs can hear their environment and respond to weather and time of day. We can see this in the Quebecs lying in the sun to get their sole form of nutrients, and the Trorks who wake up and return to shelter and warmth when it begins to rain. NPCs can also hear players. Therefore, invisibility potions might still require sneaking if you're going to properly infiltrate a Trork base. Now, we already saw rain in the trailer that had a lot of people anxious for how obnoxious it would be compared to Minecraft's rain. In this snippet though, the rain actually looks like a nice ambient atmosphere. There aren't too many particles ruining your visibility, while keeping in mind that this could be just one variation of rain that is light and unobtrusive. Continuing on, we can see some of the scripted behaviors, and we know that Trorks will have an alert animation to inform players that they have been spotted. This is a fairly standard addition to have in the game, especially when the alerted animation is as obvious as exclamation marks or pumping a fist in the air. The fun thing is that Mars will be able to change all of this as well as the animation itself, so the possibilities are quite endless. Trorks also have a beacon response when one spots a player to alert Trorks within a certain radius about your whereabouts. This beacon will be invisible to us, but beware adventurers, for a whole clan can start coming your way as soon as one of them spots you. Again, the beacon is something that Mars will have the ability to change, no doubt. Another great thing Hytale seems to be doing is making programming simple. The Hytale model maker we've already seen looks really smooth and uncomplicated, and now with this modular scripting that's very user-friendly, it might be a great starting point for people with no previous experience in this field to play around with, as there are presets and templates that don't require a line for every single action. Essentially, a novice modder could create amazing innovations on the overall gaming experience just by making a few tweaks to the existing modules. As Griffith states, a new NPC should be able to handle the environment it's dropped into in a basic sense. We also know that Trorks will interact independently of a player. We knew this already about animals and how they hunt for their own prey, and it adds to the immersion of the Hytale universe. At this point, we know Trorks will spar with each other until one of them is knocked out. Theoretically, you can make a mod that forces every Trork to spar with each other until there is only one victor remaining, which sounds quite entertaining. The inspiration for this behavior sequence was inspired by a glitch, so when the beta releases, there might be other funny behaviors. Moving on, we also know that Trorks have a fondness for discarded meat, as you can see in the small snippet. This is also our first look at what a dropped item could look like. What do you guys think? So players can essentially come up with creative strategies to distract Trork clans by dropping a trail of meat, maybe luring them into a trap, or your friend's house. Moreover, we know that NPCs can change tactics during combat by changing weapons. Therefore, an archer can switch to melee when you're in range, which is absolutely terrifying, but so much fun. The more autonomy NPCs have, the more real the world feels and the more strategies players can implement. And so far, this feels like the tip of the iceberg. We know this much about Trorks, but hypothetically, all NPCs could have similar advantages and quirky actions. Diving into the final snippets, we know that Quebecs will lie in the sun to absorb nutrients instead of needing food, so you won't be able to bait them like Trorks at this point, unless they have a liking for other objects. But this tells us something important about the zone. If Quebecs rely on sunshine, that basically tells us that the weather in Zone 1 in which Quebecs reside will be mild. It also means that if one were to follow us as a companion or party, they might struggle in a stormy, brooding zone with less sunlight. Just a thought. And goblins will throw bombs at problems, of course. We already saw this in the trailer, but we now know that bombs will affect the environment by destroying blocks and creating holes. At first, this is a rather bland piece of information, but if you think about it, this might come in handy. Theoretically, if you were smart enough, you could potentially use goblins to auto-mine, depending on what goblins see as a problem event. For example, you could spawn a bunch of chickens or rats, etc. Obviously, we don't yet know if blocks destroyed by explosives will leave behind adequate drops, but even if it doesn't, using an auto mine system can be helpful for creating underground bases and vertical mine shafts. But anyways, now it's time to thank you all for watching today's news video. It truly means a lot to us. You, the community, is what drives us every day to continue bringing you the most recent and relevant news from Hytale. Thank you. As always, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, share, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss a future upload. Let us know if we missed anything at all, and we'll be sure to respond as we'd love to hear anything more about Hytale. Before we go, let's discuss down in the comments below what excited you the most about today's news. We're always reading, and we'll be responding to as many comments as possible. But as always, we'll see you guys soon for another Hytale news video.